Hi guys, I'm Izzy. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm running to be your next president. As current Vice President Community, I've spent the past year working on 3 big crises: climate, housing, and cost of living. I set up the Breakfast Club to allow students to have a healthy breakfast in the morning, and so far we've fed thousands of students. I also ensured that the hardship funding was doubled to make sure that students aren't facing financial anxiety and have a safety net. In Parliament, I also told politicians about the student housing crisis, telling them about extortionate rents, how students are sofa surfing and being left homeless. If you vote for me, I will ensure that inclusivity, accessibility and sustainability is prioritised, and I'll be able to continue the work that I've been doing around the cost of living crisis.
Hi, I'm Petros Stanley Versatskas. I'm a second-year student at the University of Edinburgh, and I study Middle Eastern Studies. I'm standing to be your next president of the Edinburgh University Students Association. I have two years of experience as being student council president in my previous schools, and I've been engaging with students associations my whole life. Most recently, I was in Palestine this summer where I was engaging on an environmental project, and I believe that my experience, as well as the issues that are currently being faced by students, would be best addressed by me. And I hope that you vote for me in the upcoming elections. Please check out my promotional material for my policies and my manifesto as well. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Salman Wal and I am an international student from Bahrain. I currently am a program representative at the International Foundation Program Center for Open Learning at the University of Edinburgh. And having been in that role, I've really got to discover the ins and outs of the student government, and that led me to creating new ideas and thinking of a vision for the University of Edinburgh. A vision that would include 24/7 food options, affordable housing via multiple techniques, and also eco-friendly transportation.
Hi, I'm Sharon. My pronouns are she, her, and I am standing to be your next president this year. I'm one of the co-founders of Tackle-Elitism and have been campaigning for and advocating for underrepresented students since first year. We have put together several campaigns, including our bursary campaign, Scottish Students campaign, and elitism and mental health. And I've also worked closely with Stand-Alone UK to improve the experiences of co-experienced and estranged students on campus, and that's something I hope to develop our relationship with moving forward. I've also worked on curriculum transformation with Women in STEM, putting together events to open up dialogue on decolonising the curriculum.
Having worked as part of the Sabbatical team for the past year already, I know how the non-hierarchical team works. Previous to this, I also was editor-in-chief of the Rattlecap, a student newspaper, and the committee for that society was also non-hierarchical. I think that the best thing to do with leadership is it's all about empowering and elevating other people's voices. So making sure that the other vice presidents feel like their voices are being represented in some of those higher level strategic meetings that they can't attend is really important for the president. I think that empowering them to be able to complete their manifesto points is a really big part of the presidential role as well. And I definitely feel like I'd love to take that work forward and be able to do that.
I'm very glad to hear that the Sabbatical officer team is non-hierarchical in nature, and that's because my leadership style is collaborative in nature. I believe that as a team we can work best. I believe that our personal experiences that we've experienced at university and outside can inform us and help us make better decisions collectively when we listen to everyone's views on the issue, whether they're in agreement or whether they're opposed. I believe that it's very important to have that sort of open dialogue. And also for the simple fact that all of us, or many of us candidates, are running on similar issues. There are similar issues that all students face, and I think that if we can work together through the different means available, we can address them more fully and serve the community better, and that is what we're here to do, to serve our community. And I think that a collaborative work ethos really aids in achieving that.
I would describe my leadership style as relaxed and fun, yet organized. This is because I believe that in an organized and fun environment, creativity is created, and creativity is very important for leadership. As for how I will be engaging with the vice presidents, given that the student union is non-hierarchical, I believe that each vice president has their own perspective and their own unique inputs. So as president, I would interact with them by gathering their inputs and creating something really meaningful that we could present to the student body.
I would say that my approach to leadership is very much collaborative. I don't think you can be like a good leader without making sure that you value and actively encourage everyone to share their opinions and their thoughts wherever the opportunity arises. And if it doesn't, making sure the opportunity is created for them to input and be constantly involved and know what's going on. I think as a leader, the most important thing is accountability and transparency. And I think that's through conversations, through active dialogue, and through the opportunities that you're creating with the other VPs, and making sure that everyone else in the university is aware and can also contribute to these conversations. I think, for me, I think the key to good leadership would be making sure that it doesn't feel like you are leading, but working together and working collaboratively.
As Vice President Community this year, I've worked really hard to alleviate the pressures from the cost of living crisis on students. I started the Breakfast Club, giving thousands of students free breakfast once a week to make sure that food poverty is being tackled. I also fought to get the hardship funding doubled to alleviate financial anxiety and to provide that kind of safety net for students. And going forward, I really want to fight harder for shuttle buses to the Easterbush campus and the Bayer Quarter, making sure that medical students and veterinary students are given some kind of subsidised transport. That's on top of the work that I've been doing this year to create more accessible transport for students. I'd also like to work really hard on abolishing hidden course costs, which can be a real big barrier for students accessing education, especially in things like the arts, which is the background that I come from. So I think that that's really important in making sure that we have like accessible education. So the big areas that I want to work in is education, housing, transport, and then those kind of other little bits and pieces like doing things like the Breakfast Club, trying to set up a community pantry and stuff like that.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to start by saying that the current situation that we find ourselves in as students is completely unacceptable. We shouldn't be asked to choose between heating our homes and buying food, or how much food we should get. So I think that the Students Association has an absolute responsibility to help students in this cost of living crisis. There's many ways that we can do this. We can work with the shops that the Student Association owns to reduce the price of food. We can also create a forum for tackling the cost of living crisis in terms of rent. I think students currently are being exploited by the tenants in the city. There's a great opportunity to gather everyone who is involved, not just at this university, but to gather representatives from all universities, representatives of students from all universities, as well as other stakeholders in the rent issue right now, to make sure that students are able to gain good contracts at fair terms and at good service. In terms of the student opportunity, student experience grants, which fund students' ability to participate in societies, that can also be expanded, needs to be expanded. No one should have to forego going to society or participating fully because they can't afford to. It's an integral part of university life, and I, as your president, would support that and do everything that I could to reduce the burden, financial burden of students. Yeah.
As we all may have noticed, the cost of living in Edinburgh has been rising steadily throughout the years and months, which is causing a huge student housing crisis. Well, my main 2 points or aims in trying to solve this problem is by introducing new methods to counter this problem. One such method is co-op housing, cooperative housing, which is a method of housing that makes people unable to profit from each other while everyone holds a share in the property they are owning. So this results in a very balanced way of living in Edinburgh, especially since it's a new technique that's being introduced in Edinburgh and other places in the UK. My second alternative to co-op student housing to lower living costs is for the university to start building new accommodations, because the more accommodations there will be, the lesser the price would go down.
So I think the first thing that I would do responding to the cost of living crisis is, we've done so many surveys, or at least I have, so I would look at what people have said and actually start moving into action and putting in actionable steps from what people have said they want to see from the surveys. and what has been the most difficult for them. So looking at our surveys and being transparent with what we found and saying this is what we found and what we want to see, what you want to see. I'd also lobby for transport fees to be subsidised, especially for students who are on campuses further away like Kings or Easterbush. And I think this will make it easier for students to choose housing that's not as central, which is so much more expensive. So allowing students greater choice in housing through transport costs being subsidised. Also, I would very actively and heavily campaign for the reversal in the bursary cuts, which were cut I think about 2 years ago now. But in light of the cost of living crisis, seems the perfect time to reverse these cuts, as we know that it is just not feasible to live off what they've now given it is max like 5k or something. So making sure that they are aware of the issues that students are going to have now, especially students from disadvantaged backgrounds, not being able to get the full bursary. And also just providing any other financial support in terms of the widening participation grant, and making sure that is accessible from the start of the semester and not just in the middle of the semester.
Having worked with the senior leadership team for the past year, I think I've built up quite good relationships with them. I've also done some projects with them to try to tackle the cost of living crisis, to get the hardship funding increased, and to make hardship funding more accessible to students. However, I think that the senior leadership team has made some big mistakes over the past couple of years. Their handling of the housing crisis was something that I called out in my EUTV interview, where they created a documentary about the housing crisis. I think that to continue to call them out on the behaviours that they're exhibiting is really important. It's an important role for the Students' Association and student unions in general. That is our position. We have to be there to hold them to account for the actions that they take. And at the moment, with things like the housing crisis, the cost of living crisis and the climate crisis, they're not stepping up. As well as like with the mental health crisis, there isn't enough funding for mental health at the university. There's not enough funding for the cost of living crisis. They're not supporting students in the way that other universities are, and I will continue to call them out and to work towards getting the things that students need on the ground and the support that is like desperately needed to alleviate barriers to education.
I would strive for a constructive relationship with the senior leadership team. I believe it's in the best interest of students to have a positive relationship with the university. I think this is a means to solve many of the issues that students currently face, and also make the university a better place, and that is the best interest of all of us. However, that being said, I do believe that there are some policies which absolutely need to be changed, need to be adjusted, and that is where I believe the Student Association can play a vital role. Issues such as the sexual assault redressal system. The current state of that system is completely unacceptable. Students should not be asked what they were wearing, or blame should not be put on students. That is a completely unacceptable situation right now, and that is a situation that we can work with the senior leadership team to address. Other issues also include working with the senior leadership team to ensure that when the university does invest abroad in companies and in projects, those are done along the lines which the students can take pride in. For instance, before the war in Ukraine, the university was openly investing in oligarchical companies. I believe that at this stage there is a possibility for the university to take a stance and invest in the rebuilding of Ukraine, and I believe that many other issues like this we can get to a collaborative solution in this way, working together.
It is important that the Students' Union and the university senior leadership work collaboratively to bring forth the will of the students and their interests. But it is as important for the university student leadership to accept and support the decisions of the Students' Union. Therefore, I think that the way I would go about as president in engaging with the student senior leadership is proposing the ideas of or the interests of the student body while creating logical arguments that the university would really consider.
I think in terms of engaging with senior leadership, which I've done previously as the first student rep in the widening participation strategy group meetings, I think the most important thing is making them aware of what's going on campus. The biggest issue I feel like is that they are so detached from student life. You never see them, you never really hear from them. You get a couple of emails, once in a blue moon, if you check your emails. So I think making them aware of this and allowing them opportunities to actually engage actively through, I think, USA is, most effective, because otherwise it feels very corporate and you don't really like that kind of energy. So I think allowing them opportunities to actively engage, answer questions face to face, or at least actually hear from them, and make them aware of the issues so that they know what kind of things students are upset about and how they can best approach that. And I think, I think being able to see from them directly and hear from them and get questions and having that full transparency across the board in all conversations is what students would like to see. At least they wouldn't be in the dark. So yeah, I'm working in a very respectful way to do that, obviously.